Today we're going to be speaking about probably the most important session of all the sessions. And this session is what we call the historical proof. It has two parts to it. The first part of it is about Maimon Har Sinai. Now, Maimon Har Sinai, a myth versus historical fact. Can you help me a little bit? What's the difference between George Washington chopping down the cherry tree and George Washington was the first president of the United States?
One you're able to prove it, one you're not.
How?
One a lot of people know, one nobody.
Everybody knew about it. The other one, maybe one other person knew about it. Maybe no one else knew about it. It wasn't public. Do people deny facts of history? Do they rewrite history? Do they write history over in a way where what we call revisionist history? They do it all the time. So we need to get a clarity on what kind of lies you can get away with and which kind you can't get away with. If you want to sell a religion to a group of people, what's the best way to do it? Is it the best way to do it to say that there was a national revelation? That means a nevuah, the Rabbanu Shloim, B'chavodah V'atzmai spoke to a group of millions of people. That's claim one. Claim two, that the Almighty spoke to me by myself and nobody else was there. Which one is a more credible claim? The first one, of course, right? Because any Meshuggah in the world could walk around and say, God spoke to me. But how do you know it's true? He might have just made it up. What is a credible claim? A national revelation. Has anything like this actually happened or even been heard about? That means, has anybody even made a claim? You hear this? Anishma kamayu. Doesn't mean aniya. So that you even heard of such a rumor. What is that? Has a nation heard the voice of God speaking from amidst the fire as you have, and you live to talk about it? Have you ever heard of such a claim? There are 6,000 years of written history. Do you know that there is not one nation in all of time and history, in all of written history, that has made a claim of a Maimon Har Sinai? It's a historical fact, except for one. Am Yisrael. Now there is one other nation. There's a tribe in India that says that they had a Maimon Har Sinai, except they all dropped dead and didn't live to talk about it. You hear this? Look at the lashon of the pasuk. Kasher shamato ato vayechi. Isn't that interesting? Because they made it up and they had everybody drop dead. They say, where are the witnesses? Oh, they all dropped dead. You can make up a story with but that people should live to talk about it afterwards. That it's real history? Nobody. Is that an accident? Ata haresa lo da'as, not lahamen. You have been shown to know ki Hashem hu Elokim ein oid milvadoi. Hashem is the boss. There's nobody else. It's it. Only game in town. Do you know the number of Yidden that have been around since Yetzias Mitzrayim? There's about 125 generations in over 3,300 years. If you have 10 million people over 125 generations, that's 1.25 billion. Now that's a very low number. Many generations were much more than 10 million. So let's just use the number 1.5 billion. That's a conservative estimate. 1.5 billion people have been doing all this for almost 3,500 years, and it didn't happen? They're putting on tefillin. They're not eating chametz on Pesach. They're making a seder. They're wearing tzitzis. They have mezuzahs on their doors. They read Kriyas HaTorah. They study the Chumash. They're willing to die by the millions rather than desecrate the Torah. The Greeks and the Romans discuss in their histories about how crazy the Jews are. They're willing to die in mass rather than say one word against Torah's Moshe Rabbeinu. They thought it was, for them, it was fun. They would torture a Jew. The Greeks actually write this to see if they'll say one word negative Torah's Moshe Rabbeinu, and they wouldn't do it. There's no other nation in the world that has ever had a track record like that. There is no other nation in the history of the world, ever, who has died Now, Kiddush Hashem en masse by large numbers, by the millions. Do you know that the Crusades went over hundreds of years? The Crusades went on for hundreds of years. Not one kahila that went over to Christianity. Are you aware of that? Do you know that in the first crusade they destroyed 300 Jewish communities? Not one kahila said, we're going to shmatzach. The objectivity is beyond belief. Both a 5-year-old child and a 95-year-old scholar read the same book. Chumash. See Spot Run. A little kid would love a book. It says See Spot Run. A 95-year-old man would be kind of bored. Where you have something like, I'll just use an example from the Goyish world, Shakespeare, which is very complicated. An older person would appreciate it. A little kid doesn't know what's going on. Our Torah Selekenu, you can have a person who learned it 100 times, 1,000 times, you still get something from it. When you put on film tomorrow, in the minyan in the Beis Medrash, you're going to wake up energized, and you're going to feel Ashreinu Matov Chelkeinu, such a bracha to be a Yid. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave us the Torah, such a privilege. And you're going to think you're testifying to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Atem Eida, you are a link in a chain. You're not an individual. You're part of a bigger picture of something. And you actually make a difference. And every mitzvah that you do, and every act that you do, really makes a tremendous, tremendous difference. And don't ever forget that. Nobody should ever be talked into by the Yetzer Hara that I don't make a difference. You imagine all those 1.5 billion Yidden since Yetzias Mitzrayim, they're literally links in a chain, and so are we. And we should never negate the importance of everything that we do. I also want you to know that what I did is just the beginning. Now that you know Yiddishkeit is real deal, there's no room for squirming, there's no room for sveikis, it's the real deal. Now, when we learn, it's an impetus for us not to be lazy, because what you're learning really is Dvar Hashem. And if the Rebbeinu Shalom would split open the ceiling in this room and talk to all of us, I think we would listen very carefully. And that's what he's doing.